My girlfriend Chu Yun never dreamed that on the day she hit the hammer at Nasdaq, the doctor announced my death date due to kidney failure. Just because she was kidnapped 5 years ago, she was already hurt before I rescued Chu Yun. Although she was treated in time, she still had sequelae and her eyes were blind. The doctor told me 2 pieces of news, one good and one bad. The good news was that the matching was successful and my cornea could be donated to Chu Yun. I hid it from Chu Yun because the kidnappers injected me with some special drugs. The bad news was that my body and the drugs were rejected and I suffered from kidney failure. The purified blood returned to my body from the dialyzer for the last time, and my body was soaked with sweat. Dr. Lin took off various instruments from me, and finally took out the towel that I had bitten in my mouth, and advised me to scream next time if it hurt. Sometimes it feels better to release it. I was unable to answer and could only shake my head weakly. After 3 days of hospitalization, Dr. Lin allowed me to go through the discharge procedures. Before leaving, he solemnly told me again and again that I couldn't be so tired anymore. If you continue like this, your body won't last until the day when a kidney source appears. Thank you, doctor, I will pay attention. I left the hospital with the checkup list and medicine. When I passed a shopping mall, I was attracted by the flowers covering the entire square. Years ago, I saw a wish written by Su Yun. He hoped to be proposed to in a sea of flowers. Memories and reality are mixed. In a trance, I seem to hear a familiar voice. Wow, it's so romantic. I want to take a photo and share it with my boyfriend. Sister, do you know that someone around me exclaimed in a low voice? I looked in the direction of my feeling, and the figure I hadn't seen for 5 years jumped into my eyes. In a sea of flowers, Su Yun, wearing a white dress, knelt on one knee to her little boyfriend. You have been with me through all the ups and downs in the past 5 years. I want to ask you, are you willing to marry me? The early summer sun is setting, and I feel like I am being pierced by the golden light surrounding us. My eye sockets began to swell, and I lowered my head and wanted to leave here, but behind me, there was the sound of high heels stepping on the ground. A white shadow blocked my way. Su Yun's eyes were cold, and there was unspeakable sarcasm in his slightly hooked red lips. You left without saying goodbye 5 years ago, but now you want to pretend that you don't know each other? It seems that you are surprised by the sudden turn of the plot, and there are fragmentary discussions in the crowd. I am not used to being watched by people now, I just feel itchy all over my body. After a simple silence, I raised my smile and pretended to be surprised. How could I not see you just now? I heard that your company was successfully listed. I should call you Mr. Su, right? Mr. Su, congratulations, and please support me in the future. Perhaps because she had never seen me look like such a mean person, Su Yun was stunned for a moment, and then seemed to realize something. Her pretty face was instantly full of mockery. I said, why did you suddenly appear? It turned out that you knew about this. Why did you regret leaving me at the beginning? No regrets, but I couldn't bear to leave every day. Chu Yun was retaliated by the enemies of her deceased parents a few years ago. Either paint was splashed in front of the door, or a courier with strange things was received. The most dangerous time was when I found a piece of bamboo leaf green. After 3 years of love, I watched her become more and more haggard day by day, and I felt distressed. I wanted to find that person, but when I was investigating, I found something that shocked me. Time was running out. For Chu Yun's safety, I could only take risks. Sister, why did you suddenly leave so fast? The man who was proposed to by Chu Yun before interrupted my memories. Seeing me looking at Chu Yun again, could he be the person you mentioned before? After getting the affirmation from Chu Yun's eyes, he looked angry. You left your sister behind because you were afraid of danger. What are you doing now? Do you want to lie to your sister again? I tell you, it's enough for your sister to have me now. After leaving, I have been paying attention to Chu Yun silently. The man with an angry face in front of me is Chu Yun's fiancé Kachung. I think from the scene I just saw, maybe this fiancé will soon become a regular. After realizing this fact, I felt uncomfortable in my chest, but seeing Kachung protecting Chu Yun like this, I felt some indescribable relief in my heart. As my thoughts flowed, I suddenly found that Kachung's eyes were a little bit wrong, and his hand was about to touch the brim of my hat. Dialysis is very harmful to the body. Over the years, in addition to various complications, my hair has already fallen out. At this moment, if Kachung's finger just lightly touched, my ugly appearance would appear in the eyes of the onlookers and also in the eyes of Chu Yun. I raised my hand to stop him. I didn't have time to think carefully. My instinct reacted before my mind. Then Kachung seemed to be pushed hard by someone. If he hadn't been supported by Chu Yunfu who was protecting him behind him, he would have staggered and fallen to the ground. I looked at my hand in a daze. After reacting, I almost laughed in anger. I was actually framed. My eyes fell on Kachung. This trick was too rough. There was some tricks but not much. But it was enough for people who favored me. Muting, you went too far. I was about to retract my arm when the angry Chu Yun grabbed my forearm. At this moment, Chu Yun had a gloomy face and angry eyes, as if she was angry about her fiancé, and seemed disappointed with my current appearance. I didn't. As soon as I opened my mouth, I felt a sharp pain in the place where my forearm was grabbed. I couldn't help but groan. Chu Yun subconsciously let go, and then the emotion in his eyes was replaced by coldness. Do you think I will feel distressed if you pretend to be like this? Gu Ting is not the same as she was 5 years ago. It's useless for you to pretend to be pitiful in front of me. I bit my lip and tried my best to control the trembling in my voice. President Chu is beautiful and kind. I just want to win some sympathy. Not everyone deserves my sister's sympathy. Kucheng blocked Chu Yun behind him again, and said in a sarcastic tone, especially you don't deserve it at all. Then he raised his fist and threatened me, saying that I was careless just now. If you dare to pester my sister, don't blame me for being rude to you. I stepped back a little and deliberately provoked him, saying, yes, it's not a tangle, that's Mr. Chu's decision. Upon hearing that, Kucheng wanted to rush up, but was stopped by Chu Yun. Chung and I are going to get married soon. What he means is what I mean. Chu Yun looked at me with disgust, then gently took Kucheng's arm. I have booked a candlelight dinner for you tonight, and I have prepared a surprise for you. You will definitely like it. Don't be angry over irrelevant people. Let's go. Kucheng secretly gave me a provocative look, but I no longer had the energy to care. When the two walked away, I trembled and grabbed the passerby. Just now, Chu Yun pinched the dialysis leak buried in my arm. Although he quickly let go, the pain did not disappear. According to my experience, it is very likely that it has been blocked. In order not to let Chu Yun see me, I have been gritting my teeth and insisting. After being rejected several times in a row, finally a kind passerby was willing to stop and sent me to the hospital. You are lucky this time. If you were sent here later, you would probably need surgery to clear the leak, and you might even need to recreate the leak. You can be discharged after resting for a while. A blocked dialysis leak may be life-threatening. Remember to be more careful when you go back. After Dr. Lin's instructions, I left the hospital for the second time today. Maybe it was because I saw Chu Yun that I had a lot of memories today. Walking along the familiar road towards where I live, my thoughts were pulled back to 5 years ago again and again. During my investigation 5 years ago, I found that the man's revenge on Chu Yun seemed to be more than just daily harassment, and the plan had already begun. I sped up the investigation, but I was still a step slow. I arrived at the fact that Chu Yun had been kidnapped. I knew that the other party was not doing it for money, but for Chu Yun's safety, so I had to take the risk and chase him. I was slow at every step. Before I rescued Chu Yun, he had already been injured. Although he was treated in time, he still left sequelae. He lost his sight. It was a critical period for Chu Yun to start his own business. Going blind would have a devastating impact on his budding career. That had been his dream since he was a child. I will always remember his glowing face when he talked about his dream. She was the most beautiful at that time. We had been in love for 3 years and I loved her to the bone. I didn't want her to bear this kind of blow, nor could I accept that she would have to live in a dark world in the future. If possible, I would like to donate my cornea to her. An accident happened at this time. During the matching, I suddenly fainted. After waking up, the doctor told me 2 news, one good and one bad. The good news was that the matching was successful and my cornea could be donated to Chu Yun. The bad news was that someone seemed to have injected some special drug into my body, and my body rejected the drug and I suffered from kidney failure. Then I remembered that when I was rescuing Chu Yun, the kidnapper seemed to take advantage of the chaos to put something in his eye before they escaped. Something was injected into my body. After I came back, I felt a little uncomfortable. It was just that all my attention was on Chu Yun at that time, so I ignored these details. Back in the rented house, I took off my hat, and my eyes blocked by the brim appeared in the mirror. Compared with the flexible left eye, the dull right eye seemed extremely empty and rigid. Looking at myself in the mirror, I raised my hand and touched my right eye. When I knew I had kidney failure, my first reaction was to be thankful. I knew that if I had not saved Chu Yun at that time, or if it was a little later, those special drugs would have been injected into Chu Yun's body. I did not regret it. It was after I knew that I didn't have much time left that I became greedy. I modified the donation agreement. I had a corneal donation operation on my right eye. The remaining cornea of my left eye will be donated to Chu Yun after I die. Before I die, I want to see Chu Yun with my own eyes, standing on the high platform of his dreams, and at the same time I changed the donation information to anonymous. I love Chu Yun to the bone, and I know that Chu Yun loves me to the bone. If he knew that I had kidney failure, he would give me treatment even if he gave away all his property. I have checked the data. Among all the patients with kidney failure in the world, the probability of waiting for a suitable kidney source is too low. Most people can only maintain their lives through continuous dialysis. This is a bottomless pit. I can't drag Chu Yun into the abyss, so I lied that I was going on a business trip and disappeared completely from his world after the operation. Now Chu Yun's company has been listed. After seeing the footage of Chu Yun hammering at Nasdaq on the internet, my last wish has been fulfilled. The cornea of my left eye that I coveted should also go to its new owner. Kidney failure can cause many complications. In addition to regular dialysis, I may be sent to the hospital at any time due to a complication. In order to see Chu Yun's company go public with my own eyes, I insisted on treatment and trapped myself for 5 years. In this rental house not far from the hospital, the landlord who has lived there for 5 years is very kind. After knowing my situation, he not only took the initiative to reduce the rent, but also never increased it in the past 5 years. I don't want to bring bad luck to his house, and now I am willing to do so. I would like to go out for a walk in the remaining time, so I sent the landlord a notice to cancel the lease. I followed the travel guide and booked a hotel online. After registering the information at the front desk, I was about to go upstairs when I met Chu Yun, who had just come out of the elevator. Her fair and pretty face was slightly made up, She had a simple ponytail on her head, and she was wearing a floral dress. At first glance, I seemed to see Chu Yun, who was still in college, but after my eyes fell on Kuchung next to him, I returned to reality. 5 years have made Chu Yun more mature, and I am not the one who is qualified to stand next to him. Every time I realize this, a trace of pain spreads in my heart. I don't know what Su Yun is busy doing on his phone at this moment, and didn't notice me. I lowered my eyes and avoided him, wanting to miss him silently, but Kuchung recognized my identity. At that time I was wearing a wig, a hat, a mask and sunglasses on my face. I don't know how he determined that the person in front of him was me, just like the chance encounter a few days ago. Kuchung protected Su Yun behind him, guarding against my approach. Why are you here? Are you following me and my sister? I told you if you dare to pester my sister, I won't be polite to you. Chu Yun heard the noise and looked up, just in time to see Kuchung's aggressive look towards me. Last time Chu Yun was able to recognize me from a back, and now I don't expect the equipment on my body to hide my identity. I took off my mask and raised the corners of my mouth. What a coincidence, Mr. Su, we meet here again. Unfortunately, I don't want to see you. Guting, is it fun for you to pester me like this? Judging from Su Yun's gloomy face, it is obvious that he and Kuchung have the same idea and feel I followed them here, as if my lie had been exposed. I covered my chest, lowered my head slightly, and stammered that I was not entangled, but just came to fulfill the original agreement. We said at the beginning that we would travel together. Not long after Su Yun and I confirmed our relationship, we began to prepare to start a business. Later, most of our energy and time were spent on work. That night when I was almost bitten by the bamboo green snake, Chu Yun, who survived the disaster, suddenly realized that between him and me, there were almost no good memories of the period of love. That night, he promised in my arms that if he could survive the revenge of his parents' enemies, he would temporarily put aside everything and go out traveling with me to create beautiful memories of ours, so that even if an accident happened again, there would be no regrets. But the regret at the end still remained. It was my regret, and also the regret of Chu Yun, who once loved me deeply. Pa, just as I finished speaking, I was slapped in the face by Chu Yun. Don't call me Ayun, what qualifications do you have to say this? Chu Yun was right when she said I had no qualifications. That agreement was, in a sense, her last wish, so I dared not look into her eyes. I was afraid that after seeing the disappointment in Chu Yun's eyes, I would no longer be able to pretend. I was overreacting just now. After a long silence, Chu Yun spoke first. 5 years ago, I was blind and could only be a burden to you, so you left without saying goodbye. I don't blame you, but since it's over between us, whether it's an agreement or a regret, it should all be passed together. I don't want to recall it, and you shouldn't mention it again. Now I have a new life and a new lover. I don't care why you reappeared, but I am very satisfied with my current life and don't want it to be destroyed. There is no disappointment nor anger. Su Yun's voice was very flat, so flat that it seemed as if he was talking to a stranger. I almost fled in a panic. I stood in front of the mirror in the hotel room. I took off my sunglasses, and my pale face was reflected in my left eye. The faucet in the sink was turned to the maximum. Amid the sound of running water, I finally couldn't control the pain that I had suppressed for a long time, and burst into tears. After finally stopping my emotions, I bought a ticket for that day's departure. When I packed my luggage and prepared to go downstairs, I ran into Chu Yun and Kuchung, who had just returned in the elevator. This time, Chu Yun didn't give me an extra look, and even stopped Kuchung when he wanted to provoke me again. After 5 years, my purpose of leaving without saying goodbye was finally achieved. I personally wiped out the last bit of affection in his heart. The pain in my heart began to spread again. I pretended to be calm and walked into the elevator, then took a taxi as if escaping. The taxi driver tried to talk to me several times but failed. He simply turned on the car radio, and the voice of the most popular crosstalk actor just sounded in the car, interrupted by a temporarily inserted news. The news broadcast just now: a fire broke out in the hotel I just left, and many people were trapped inside. The fire truck was rushing to the hotel. The reporter reminded nearby vehicles to give way in time to ensure that the rescue road was unobstructed. The driver smacked his lips and said, "Brother, you are so lucky. If you had left a little later, you would have been trapped in the fire." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard my shrill cry, "Go back, Chu Yun is still inside." Seeing that I was in a bad mood, the driver did not dare to delay. He turned the steering wheel and returned the way he came. With a sudden brake, the taxi stopped outside the yellow line. There was no need to look for it. I threw down all the cash in my pocket, opened the door and rushed out. The fire brigade had already launched a rescue, but I searched for Chu Yun among the rescued people for a long time, and did not see Chu Yun. Looking at the hotel still emitting black smoke, my heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Could it be that Chu Yun was still trapped inside? Realizing this, I ran into the hotel. The disaster came suddenly, and there were too many people trapped in the hotel. The firefighters were busy putting out the fire while saving people. By the time someone reacted and tried to stop me, I had already entered the hotel and the elevator had long stopped running. I could only climb up the corridor. After kidney failure, my physical strength plummeted. At this moment, I was extremely grateful that I ran into Chu Yun when I left, and I didn't have to confirm his floor one by one. But even so, after climbing to the floor where Chu Yun's room was, I was already gasping for breath. The oxygen content in the air was no longer enough, and there were floating ashes from the burning. Every deep breath would make my respiratory tract and lungs more burning. I knew I couldn't hold on for long, and I didn't dare to waste time. Fortunately, I quickly found the area. He was feeling the wall and walking away from the stairs. I had a bad feeling in my heart and remembered what the doctor had said, that even if a blind person develops a new cornea, eyes are also more fragile and sensitive than ordinary people, and soon my premonition was confirmed. Soo-Yun's eyes were really blind. Don't be afraid, Ayun, I'll take you downstairs first. I've inhaled too much ashes just now, and my throat is hoarse. Soo-Yun couldn't recognize it was me, and thought it was Ko-Chang who broke in. While complaining that I ignored his safety, he obediently walked downstairs with my support. I also knew that before the fire broke out, Ko-Chang happened to go out to buy things, and Soo-Yun was the only one left when he returned to the hotel. The firefighters who came in for rescue found us and escorted us out of the hotel. Judging from the current situation, the patient's eyes are only temporarily blind due to the stimulation of black smoke, and he will recover after resting for a while. Of course, this is only a preliminary diagnosis. It's better to go to the hospital for a detailed examination. Before the doctor spoke, I had already prepared to replace the cornea of my left eye with Chu-Yun in advance. Now it seems that the situation is not that bad. After another look, he is still being rescued. Chu-Yun was being checked in the ambulance. I turned and left. Since he didn't recognize me just now, there should be no new ties. It was not until I was stopped by the taxi driver that I realized he had been at the scene the whole time. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was in a hurry to get off the car just now, and all the luggage including the documents were still in the car. But I didn't expect that the first person I saw would be Ko-Chang. When he saw me wake up, his face was very complicated. Don't get me wrong, it was a taxi driver who handed you to me. He said you fainted because you rushed into the fire to save your sister, so I can't just ignore you. I pursed my lips. Does Ayun know too? Ko-Chang's eyes drifted. No, I haven't had time to tell him yet. It seems that not telling is true, and not having time is false. I didn't expose it, but turned my gaze to the window, looked at the trees outside and said calmly, that's good. Don't tell Ayun about this. Why can't you tell, sister? Isn't the purpose of always showing it is that it? If your sister knows that it was you who saved her, wouldn't it be more convenient for you to get close to her? Ko-Chang didn't wait for my answer, but stared at me word by word and said, unless your previous performance was fake. Her tone was firm, as if she already knew something. I think it should be from the doctor who saw my test results. As long as you are not stupid, you can guess something after seeing the test results. It doesn't matter whether it is true or false. You just need to know that I won't harm her. I was not panicked but raised my eyebrows and chuckled. Besides, you should not want to have another competitor. With this sentence, Ko-Chang's accumulated momentum disappeared in an instant. He was silent for a long time and said in a muffled voice, I just think that this is unfair to you. This time I really laughed from the bottom of my heart, but for a dying person like me, the most important thing has never been fairness. I said that Ko-Chang is scheming, but not long ago his attitude towards me may have been a little extreme. But no matter it was a false accusation or a threat, it could be seen that he really liked Soo-Yun. Such a person was actually very easy to control. When he left the ward, although he did not say it explicitly, I could see that he had already agreed in his heart. Unfortunately, my travel plan was completely ruined. This time I rashly rushed into the fire, which made my already broken body even worse. I could originally live for half a year, but now I have less than 2 months left, and I can only rest for these 2 months. However, the days of rest seemed to be different from what I thought. I said, what's the matter with you always coming to me? My place is in the suburbs and you don't feel tired running back and forth for such a long distance? There is less than a month left before the wedding, and the bride-to-be is busy with her career. As the groom-to-be, shouldn't you worry about the wedding? Lying on the lounge chair in the newly rented yard, I rolled my eyes at Ko-Chang. Ko-Chang was while washing the fruits. He said that it was actually okay. Most of the preparations were done by the wedding company. There was not much I needed to do before the rehearsal. After washing the fruits, he brought them to the table next to the recliner and asked seriously, seriously, are you really not going to consider coming to my sister and I's wedding? No. I waved the fan and refused impatiently. With my health, if I get sick and die at the wedding, it would be so unlucky. Besides, what reason should I use to go? Will Ayun agree? Ko-Chang said hesitantly, I can try to convince my sister. I interrupted him before he finished speaking. How do you want to convince me? Don't forget that you promised me to keep it a secret. If you accidentally let it slip, all the suffering I have suffered in the past few years will be in vain. Okay, I didn't think it through. The yard became quiet, and the last days would go on like this. It's actually quite good. If possible, if so, when I woke up in the cave, I confirmed that I was kidnapped. The person who kidnapped me was none other than the man who kidnapped Chu-Yun 5 years ago. Although I was tied with ropes, I was not panicked. Instead, I looked at the man with a look of understanding. It was you. You dared to come back after 5 years. The man stared at me viciously and smiled cruelly. The couple's surname Su made me lose my company and home. I haven't taken revenge yet, so of course I have to come back. If you want to take revenge, shouldn't you look for yourself first? He ruthlessly tore off his fig leaf with contempt in his eyes. It was you who cut corners at the beginning, and wanted to take the blame for Ayun's parents when something happened. Ayun's parents just rejected you. After the incident was exposed, the company went bankrupt and your wife left you with the children. You did the evil yourself, but you put the blame on Ayun's parents, and you want to take revenge on someone else's daughter. Are you still a human being? The man's voice was full of anger. Bah, I gave them the job, shouldn't they repay me? Why do they dare to reject me and refuse to repent? I snorted coldly and didn't continue to argue with him. My purpose was not to convince him, but to attract his attention. It's about time now. As soon as this thought flashed through my mind, I saw a figure appear at the entrance of the cave. My pupils suddenly shrank. How could it be him? The time started when I was discharged from the hospital. After I stayed in the hospital for a week, the police also reported the cause of the fire in the hotel. Someone deliberately set the fire. Although the murderer was not caught, I sensed a sense of familiarity from some of the evidence published. I moved back on the grounds of recuperation, but secretly launched an investigation. According to the results of the investigation, the arsonist was indeed 5 years old. The man who kidnapped Chi-Yun before, after escaping, he not only had to hide from the police, but also from debt collectors. After hiding for several years, he finally couldn't hide anymore, so he set fire to the hotel, wanting to drag Chu-Yun and I to be buried with him, but I happened to check out and leave, so only Chu-Yun was trapped in the hotel. I didn't have much time left, so I simply used myself as bait and deliberately moved to a sparsely populated suburb, hoping to lure him out. The plan was successful, and I was successfully kidnapped by him, but an accident also happened. I looked at the figure standing at the entrance of the cave, and couldn't understand why Chu-Yun, who should be on a business trip, appeared here. Seeing my stunned expression, the man laughed and said, "Do you think I'm really that stupid? I was just playing along. Before kidnapping you, I sent something to his mobile phone. Anyway, I couldn't hide anymore, and it's enough to have the two of you buried with me." Hearing this, I stared at him with rapid breathing and asked, "What did you send?" Of course it was this. The man took out a syringe and said complacently, "This is a special medicine for treating a certain disease, but you can't use it too much, otherwise the organs in the body will not be able to bear it. Even if you don't die, you will be tortured for the rest of your life. I prepared it specifically for that little girl 5 years ago, but I used it on you in the end." She showed a hideous smile. "How about the experience over the years? Not bad, right?" I gritted my teeth. "You lunatic, I am crazy, what can you do to me, ha ha ha." In the man's crazy laughter, Chu-Yun walked into the cave with his hands behind his back. He didn't look at me but said to the man calmly, "I'm here. You said that as long as I come, you will let him go. You are so old, why are you still so naive? Since he has deceived Chu-Yun here, he won't pretend anymore. I won't let either of you go." As he was speaking, the man had already rushed forward with the syringe. Seeing this, my teeth were about to crack. Time seemed to slow down at this moment. In my sight, as the distance got closer, the man's already ferocious mouth was still expanding a little bit, and a cruel pleasure emerged, almost twisted. He raised his hand to the top of his head. As long as he took one more step forward, he could stab the syringe in his hand into Chu-Yun's body. "Let him go, come to me if you have anything to do. I have had kidney failure for 5 years, and no one knows better than me the consequences of being injected into the body." I roared and wanted to rush up to knock the man away, but the rope tied on my body made me unable to move. At this time, Su-Yun stretched out his hand that had been behind his back. He held a pistol in his hand. At this time, the distance between the two was very close, and although Chu-Yun's hands were trembling, he pulled the trigger without any hesitation, and a thin needle shot out from the muzzle and pierced the man's body. The man looked at the thin needle piercing his body, and the corner of his mouth cracked again, but before he could make any move, he fell to the ground with a bang. The medicine on the anesthetic gun can make a person fall asleep completely within 3 seconds. As the police rushed in and carried the man away, Su-Yun was already standing in front of me. Her expression was still calm, but the trembling in her voice still exposed her nervousness, but I was more nervous. When Su-Yun should have gone up the mountain, she happened to run into the police who had surrounded this place, so she replaced the original candidate, successfully relaxed the man's vigilance, and completed the counterattack. "Do you know that this is very dangerous, such a close distance? What if it pierces your body if you—" The slap on the face interrupted me. I could feel this time. He used even more force than the last time in the hotel. He left without saying goodbye and was a lone hero. Is this fun? I wanted to explain, but seeing his red eyes, there were only 3 words left out of all the words I could say. "I'm sorry." These 3 words were like a switch. The calmness on Chu-Yun's face disappeared in an instant. Before I could react, he had already hugged me and started crying. The panic after he found out I was missing 5 years ago, the fear when he was worried that I had an accident, the sadness after he knew I was fine and just left without saying goodbye, the uneasiness when we met again 5 years later, the disappointment after I seemed to have become a different person, the despair after I took advantage of the agreement in the hotel, and the huge absurdity and unreality after knowing the truth about why I left. Su-Yun didn't say anything, but I seemed to be able to feel all his emotions at the moment. Finally, the crying stopped. After Su-Yun let me go, he saw that I was about to. I opened my mouth and said sternly, "Shut up, I don't want to talk to you now." Helplessly, I could only look at the police for help. After a few teasing and sympathetic looks, someone finally came up and untied the rope for me. Chu-Yun's face turned red, and he glared at me and turned to walk out. He didn't say anything, but I stood there scratching my head, and still followed him obediently. After taking the statement, Chu-Yun dragged me to the hospital without saying anything and did all the tests again. Looking at the renal failure and various complications on the test report, his eyes became moist again. This time it was my turn to panic. He had been crying for a long time today. If he continued crying, I was worried that there would be problems with his eyes. With my repeated assurances and comfort, she finally stopped crying. After a long silence, Su-Yun put her hand on my right eye. She only knew from the man who kidnapped her. He knew that I left without saying goodbye because I was sick. It was not until the examination just now that he found out that I was the one who donated the cornea to her. "Guting, how can I repay you like this?" I turned my head away and said, "I haven't repaid you yet. You were my girlfriend at that time, and these are what I should do." As soon as he finished speaking, I felt him glaring at me again. It seems that even if there was a reason, he still felt uneasy about leaving without saying goodbye. "Next, you just stay in the hospital, and I will use all my abilities to help you treat your illness." I left 5 years ago because I was worried that I would be a burden to him. I didn't expect that I would return to the original route now. However, it is different from the beginning. Chu Yun's company has been listed. Without a kidney source, he will only have these 2 months to live. I don't want to stay in the hospital for the last time, but in order to make him feel more at ease, I still agreed. To prevent him from crying again if I continued, I quickly changed the subject. Where is Kechang? Such a big thing happened. Why is he not with you? Or have you kept it a secret from him? Then I saw that he looked at me with a very complicated look. I scratched my head a little puzzled. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me with such strange eyes? Are you worried that I will target him? Don't worry, you are getting married soon. I am just a past tense, I know the limits. Although I didn't hide it in the end, 5 years have passed. I won't dwell on the past. Chu Yun's eyes were even stranger, but what she said made me even stranger. We have broken up, is it because of me? Chu Yun nodded and shook her head. Seeing that I was still puzzled, she asked, do you remember the fire before? I nodded and then I suddenly realized and quickly explained, you mean he pretended to be me who saved you, right? I knew about that and I asked him to do that. After a pause, I added somewhat embarrassedly, after all, you also know that I didn't need to say everything at that time. Su Yun understood, so I was glared at by him again today. I will settle these things with you later. It's not because of this. Su Yun did not keep me in suspense and explained that the man had been hiding for many years. Guess how he knew that you and I were staying in the same hotel. It was such a coincidence that on the day of the proposal in the square, not only was I there, but the man who kidnapped Chi Yun was also there. The man witnessed Kechang framing me and pushing him, and keenly realized that Kechang hated me. I said that Kechang was scheming, but there were not many such people. Once discovered, their weaknesses were very easy to grasp. The man used Kechang in this way. Kechang got a lot of information about Chu Yun and me, including the fact that we happened to live in the same hotel. If it were just that, it would be fine. After all, Kechang didn't know the identity of that man at the time, so it was normal for him to be used. In the following story in the group, I learned that Kechang was actually involved in my kidnapping. Thinking of how Kechang had always acted harmless after the fire, I had to admit that I had made a mistake. Love makes people blind. If I had really deserted the battlefield 5 years ago, Kechang's hostility towards me would have been limited to the fact that I was Chu Yun's ex-boyfriend. However, when he knew what I had done for Chu Yun, the hostility expanded to the defense against a strong competitor. He was afraid that Chu Yun would come back to me after knowing the truth, so after knowing that the man was going to deal with me, he took the initiative to be an insider. The investigation of him was discovered. The man simply played along and lured Chu Yun over. The man has been arrested by the police, and it is clear where Kechang, his accomplice, is now. After sorting out all the things, I pulled the corner of my mouth. No wonder he came to me almost every day some time ago. For a moment, I looked at Chu Yun with some sympathy. His 2 disasters were also due to the contributions of his fiancée Kechang. Su Yun was obviously embarrassed and coughed lightly. You rest first, I'll go to the doctor to ask some questions. After that, he hurriedly left the ward. It seems that no one can underestimate him. Looking at the ward door being closed, I sighed and lay back on the bed. If I didn't think I could control Kechang, the plan would not be leaked, and Su Yun was almost implicated. However, although the two broke up, I didn't express my thoughts again. My feelings for Chu Yun have never changed, but my body does not allow me to do such willful things. In the last days, I am satisfied to be able to get along with each other in this way. The fatigue of my body came up, and I fell asleep contentedly, so I ignored one thing. Since my cornea and Chu Yun's can be successfully matched, is there any possibility for other organs? A month later, Dr. Lin excitedly told me that someone anonymously donated a kidney, which happened to be a successful match with mine. Under Chu Yun's supervision, I signed the donor-recipient agreement. After the operation, I woke up in the ward. Under the gentle light in my left eye, I reflected the figure of Su Yun on the bed next to me with his right eye. Mr. Gu, please give me more advice in the future. Even if there is half darkness, we can support each other and have complete light. The whole text is over.